Hello and welcome back to Shelf Centered. This is Bryce. I just wanted to do a quick kind of wrap up of my Indie August reading self-published, independently published works. And then I realized why not just do a top 10 for the whole year, because I was just looking at it, just under half of the books that I've read for the year have been independently published. I've been having a good indie year, and so might as well just make it something a little more expansive. So I think all the books actually that I read in August for Indie August made this list to some degree, so we'll get there. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump into it. And starting with book number 10. Number 10 is going to be Nightfall by Daniel Barnett. This might just be because it was one of the first books I read this year. It was really good. I remember it, really creepy. Lots of good vibes and just an interesting story. Something happens to the world and it kind of like, this is where it kind of starts, this kind of like apocalypse type thing, and it's like, it's scary, it's creepy, monsters and humans as monsters, so really good. I need to read more into that. It's just everything else distracts me and I'm easily distractible. All right, number 9, we're gonna go with Blade's Edge by Virginia McLean. This is one that's just a really fun, there's a kind of a fun magic system. There's lots of action, kind of in a more of an Asian setting, and so just not my usual wheelhouse of medieval fantasy, but really, really a fun, interesting world and good characters that just, a couple main characters that are just fun to follow. And so they just tracking these main characters and kind of some of their struggles, but just also their skills and lots of action and everything. So really fun. Highly recommended. All right, number 8. This was one of my very recent ones, but we're going with A Drowned Kingdom by P.L. Stewart. This is just a really great world, an interesting main character author, and I'm always impressed when an author can really make a complex character and make you want to follow them, even though you're constantly disappointed in them. They're not really likable. And I'm always just amazed that an author can do this to you, to just kind of get you all over the place emotionally with a character, and you're like, I want to follow him, and then you're like, no, I hate what they're doing, and then okay, that was good, and maybe he's learning, and I feel like just to get him from point A and a good to point B to really grow is really interesting for me, and I just think it's a really cool character study, interesting world, and definitely highly recommended. And then this is one I actually continued in the month of August, the series, but I'm going to go with the first book in the series, and that's going to be House of Blades by Will White. What a cool, Will White, I think, gets a lot of comparisons to Brandon Sanderson, and there's a reason. Just love his magic systems, and the main character essentially opens up his abilities by passing tests in this house. And they're just everything's trying to kill him, everything, even in the healing vat where he's healing his wounds, then there are these imps that try to drown him, and so you can only stay in there so long. And anyway, it's just this really interesting concept. I love it, and I want more, and that's why I read the second one, actually, because my problem is wanting to read a little bit of everything, and then I get myself stuck in having read the first book of a million different series. So I read book 2 in that already, and I plan to jump into book 3 here soon. But really just a fun, interesting world with bigger ramifications, I can tell you, in book 2. So he's good. He's big on this progressive fantasy, and this is exactly something I love. So if you like Cradle, you're definitely going to like House of Blades. This is actually, House of Blades was the first book that I had heard that people were recommending from Will White, and it was Cradle that I jumped into first, and I've loved Cradle. It's one of my favorite series. You might hear more about it in a second. All right, number 6, everything else I've had either in Kindle or in audiobook form for these books. I actually have a physical book of this, even though I did the audio. I read the audio. But this is going to be number 6. We're talking Chaos Reigns, Oath Broken by Jared Smith. As you like, my name's on the back here, so I think I liked it. With a quote from me, just really absolutely fun urban fantasy, and I love these new covers. I think they're really fun, and the second book is coming out here shortly. So anyway, get your hands on this. Look at it's slim, it's worth your time, and it's just a really fun ride. All right, number 5, we're gonna go with The Hellbourne King by Christopher Brenning. This is it's like, if you like grimdark and you like kind of Northman types, and just really good characters too, but they're gonna go through some stuff, and it's pretty rough. I can't wait. Book 2 just came out, the Wrathbringer, so I'm so excited for it. But this is one, Christopher Brenning's really knocked this one out of the park with his debut novel, and just like so much to this. I've heard it's like John Gwynn's books. What is it? The Faithful and the Fallen. What is it? Malice and Wrath and Ruin. Books on my list. I hear they're great, but that's what I hear it get compared to, and I can just definitely say highly recommended. A lot of good stuff out of that book, so check it out. And then book number 4, we're gonna go with, again, this was an August indie read, Zach Argyle's Voice of War. I finished this weeks ago. I can't stop thinking about it. I've been reading other books, but then I keep thinking, is this where this is happening? No, it's actually Voice of War. If you kind of like, it's almost like Stormlight Archive from Brandon Sanderson Light. And I think it takes some inspiration from there. Definitely the magic system has a lot of similarities, but it's totally different too. And so it's definitely its own story. It's a great story. Having to do with Threadlight is the actual magic system. The magic system is really fun. There are different races of people, and then these like monsters, and it's definitely, the most of my list, probably the most traditional fantasy, especially like modern traditional fantasy of the group. And all of these, honestly, I'm like, and I'll talk about this in a bit, but I'm like, they could easily be traditionally published, easily, just absolutely any of these. But I also love that they're not. And this is a bit of a stretch to get it to 10, but it still counts. I'm still counting it. But my top 3, they're actually all in the Cradle series. I couldn't resist. I had to do it. Cradle series it's one of my all-time favorite series. I love it. I enjoyed the first couple books, but then it just keeps getting, the world just gets huge and expands constantly. I mean, we're getting into space. It's so huge. So I'm going with, these are kind of the 3 latest that I've read. But I'm going with Underlord, then Uncrowned, and then I'm going with Winter Steel. Those are going to be my top 3 right there. Winter Steel, I think, takes the cake. I liked Bloodline. That's another one. It's right up there. But these ones really just felt like there's so much great character development. But also, I think I'm just a sucker for a good tournament. So he's all like involved in this huge tournament. So just really cool, really fun use of magic. And then it's progressive style magic. That is, you're leveling up. Your characters are leveling up, but without you having to go through a slog of leveling up, doing the hard work. It's done for you in a fun and entertaining way. I mean, literally, Will White at the end of the book does bloopers, and then he'll often incorporate some Our World type reference or something. It's hilarious. I mean, that alone is great, but just the stories, the characters, everything about it, I love it. And then the magic is probably my favorite thing. So that is my top 10 list for the year so far. What are you reading? What are you enjoying? I said earlier, I think any of these could have been traditionally published, but I love this kind of renaissance we have with independently published books. There are so many good ones out there. There's so many resources to be able to find ones that are going to fit you. You know, there's bad traditionally published books too, because I feel like independent and self-published books get a bad rap. And fair enough, there's plenty out there that aren't good, but there's also plenty of traditionally published books that are not good that get traditionally published, and I've read plenty of those too. So I would just say, if you haven't yet, check out this list, any of the books on this list. Most of them are beginnings of a series, but also the ones, check out the beginnings of the series that like Cradle. Check them out, do yourself a favor. It's what a time to be alive, to have so many options, especially when some of these traditional publishers are trying to merge together and create less competition for themselves. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel out, and we will catch you later. Bye.